Hey, I'm Coach Greg, the owner of Antibody Bootcamp. I got another fitness tip for you today. We're going to talk about pelvic tilt. All right, so something you need to understand to protect your core and to get the most out of your time and effort is appropriate pelvic tilt. So what we want to do is make sure that our pelvis is not slouching forward in a posterior tilt. And we also want to make sure that we're not overarching into an anterior tilt. I got my shirt off right now so that you can really see the difference in the two. We're going to do a few exercises that we see common mistakes for the pelvic tilt on, and I'm going to show you how to correct it, and we're going to get that core tight. So there's an exercise that I want you to do right now. We're going to find a neutral pelvic tilt. All right, so your posterior pelvic tilt, as shown in this image, allows your pelvis to sink forward. All right, I call it tucking your tail. All right, what happens here is that we've got the lower back muscles stretching. We have engagement in the core, but not engagement back here. All right, that causes a lot of lower back pain, and it's gonna really not allow you to get low in your squats and exercise of that nature. Then we have an anterior tilt, which is an overly arched pelvis, also known these days as twerking. You can see it here in this image. Again, what we need to do is we need to find the center of the two. So I want you to go back and forth, tuck your tail, you're gonna squeeze those glutes, overarch lower back. All right, we're going back and forth between anterior and posterior tilt. We're gonna slowly get right in the middle until you can feel that your lower back and your abs are tight. That is a neutral pelvic position, and this is where almost every exercise that we do should be with our pelvis.
Before starting any of our exercises, do that pelvic exercise to make sure your back is flat. Once you're in the right position, then we can begin our exercise. This first one is bent barbell rows. Notice that I've kept my back flat in this position the entire time by keeping my core tight and the weight in my heels as I'm rowing. One of the mistakes that we see most often is letting your shoulders and your hips roll forward in order to get the barbell in the starting position. This causes your back to round out, puts an unnecessary amount of strain on your lower back and neck. Not only can it cause these pains, but it also keeps you from keeping tension on the muscles we're trying to work and from getting the results. Another exercise that uses the same concept is a stiff leg deadlift. So you see we're going to start with that neutral pelvic position, and then we will shift the weight back into our heels, start to hinge at the hips while keeping the core tight and that back flat. When you do this properly, you'll feel tension and a stretch in the hamstrings while maintaining that flat back. And you don't have to go down that far to experience that tension and get the benefit. And again, just like with the rows, the biggest mistake we see made is the shoulders and the pelvis rounding forward and getting a really deep, long stretch, thinking that's what it takes to stretch those hamstrings. But in fact, you're taking tension away from the hamstrings and putting it up in the back in the areas that we don't need. As you can see, I don't like the way that feels. Take a look at the barbell squat. Keep it in a neutral pelvic position, spine is straight, as we get deep into the squat with all the weight in our heels. Just like all these other exercises we're talking about, this is going to allow you to get the benefit without the pain, strengthening the quads, hamstrings, and glutes, and building muscle to have them toned and boosting our metabolism. You see the same problems with this exercise as all the others: shoulders, hips rounded forward, and what happens is you're on limited range of motion. You can't go down nearly as far, your knees are way over your toes with that rounded back. It puts all the pressure right into your knees. On the other side of problems, we see an overly active anterior tilt, putting crazy arch in that lower back without any engagement in the abs. All right, your squat's definitely gonna be better this way, but not great, as your back is gonna be tight, tight, tight. Now let's talk about some of the same issues in core exercises. We wanna maintain that neutral pelvic tilt and flat back through our plank. A lot of the same mistakes get made. As you can see here, the posterior tilt with the rounded back, hips are down, head's down. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the overarch back with the head up, the butt up, anterior tilt. It's just gonna put all the pressure in the wrong spots. You gotta be aware of it. Do that pelvic exercise we talked about, find the middle ground and hold it tight. The C-sit is another great example of this. putting tension in the lower back by holding your posture upright. A lot of times people get tired, they let that lower back sink in, they go right into that anterior tilt, and that's bad. The whole point of this is to improve core strength, to improve posture, to get all the benefit with no pain.
So I want you to take this pelvic tilt issue very seriously, because everything you do in exercising starts with the foundation at the core, right next to the pelvis, all right? You're gonna get better results, you're gonna crush your goals, you're gonna get rid of back pain, it's gonna help with your knee pain, it's gonna help your posture, it's gonna make your life better. So let's get to it, get that pelvis right.